Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Friday, October 29, 2021. Only vaccinated persons will be allowed to attend events being hosted by public sector entities. The announcement was made by Prime Minister Andrew Holness, who charged that these events should also be held within a controlled environment with the required spacing protocol maintained.
In this order, public sector entities that are putting on events must first determine the vaccination status of those who they are inviting to attend.
Mr. Holness was speaking during Tuesday's sitting of the House of Representatives. He reminded the country that these public entity events are limited to a maximum of 50 persons in physical attendance. The Prime Minister advised that as a precursor to the lifting of the work-from-home order, permanent secretaries and heads of agencies must put measures in place to facilitate risk assessment and planning.
The permanent secretaries are now directed that they must determine the vaccination status. Ascertain, a nicer word. After ascertaining, they will make the determination. They will find out the vaccination status of the workers in their charge. And this is to help us now plan for the endemic stage of the management of the disease.
The existing work-from-home directive in the public sector remains in place until December 9. Meanwhile, the National COVID-19 Vaccination Operationalization Task Force is recommending a protocol for the vaccination or testing of certain categories of workers as part of measures to improve coverage in the country. Chairman of the task force, Professor Gordon Shirley, voiced the recommendation during a press conference held on Wednesday.
We have to implement a vaccinate or test program for the healthcare workers and the nurses. We believe that the government should support the cost of testing for a few weeks, after which the healthcare workers will have to assume the costs for doing it themselves.
Professor Shirley says similar measures should be taken for those engaged in the education sector. But he says this should be preceded by a robust education program aimed at addressing vaccine hesitancy and obtaining the buy-in of workers. Arguing that vaccine hesitancy among various essential groups is having a negative impact on the inoculation program, he's urging frontline workers to follow the example of the JDF, which has achieved over 90% vaccination. Another shipment of the Pfizer vaccine from the United States government is expected in the country in November. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says discussions continue with his U.S. counterpart for the vaccines, which is expected to be a donation.
We will have sufficient to continue the program. We'll get 206,000 the next tranche, and then we have another amount to get.
Dr. Tufton made the revelation during the ministry's COVID-19 conversation press briefing on Tuesday. He says approximately 240,000 children ages 12 to 18 years are scheduled to be vaccinated. Once the cohort of children vaccination program is completed, consideration will be made to include other categories of persons. The United States-based Frontier Airlines has announced plans to increase the number of weekly flights to Jamaica beginning November 1. International Sales Manager Alfredo Gonzalez tells JIS News that 3 new gateways will be added to the existing slate. This will bring the total number of locations providing scheduled service into Montego Bay to 4. The flights will originate from Atlanta, Georgia on November 1, Orlando, Florida on November 2, and Newark, New Jersey on December 17. Currently, Frontier flies between Miami, Florida to Montego Bay, which commenced in May. Mr. Gonzalez says Jamaica continues to be a destination of choice. Hence, a decision was made based on the need identified.
After 2 very difficult years in the travel industry, the need to connect people, to bring people back from the U.S. back to Jamaica, the people from Jamaica to go back to the U.S.
Meanwhile, Acting Deputy Director of Tourism Peter Mullings welcomes Frontier's announcement, saying the confidence displayed in brand Jamaica is encouraging as the industry looks toward the post-pandemic era.
The forecasting of these flights is good, and the pacing of these flights is extremely good. So we are very confident that we'll have a good season coming up.
And finally, government is seeking investors in the United Arab Emirates, UAE, to further develop the Port Royal cruise port in Kingston. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett has met with DP World, a major multinational logistics company based in the UAE, on the matter. The meeting also discussed the development of a logistics hub, a Vernam Field, multimodal transport and aerotropolis, as well as other infrastructural investments. Mr. Bartlett says the meetings have been very fruitful and executives of DP World are to continue these discussions soon with the Port Authority of Jamaica and the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. DP World specializes in cargo logistics, maritime services, port terminal operations, and free trade zones. While in the UAE, Minister Bartlett and his team will also meet with representatives of the country's tourism authority. Those meetings are to discuss collaboration on tourism investments from the region, Middle East tourism initiatives, and gateway access for North Africa and Asia, as well as facilitating airlift. From the UAE, Minister Bartlett will head to Saudi Arabia, where he will speak at the 5th anniversary of the Future Investment Initiative. The minister will return to the island on Saturday, November 6. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.